Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a very cool review for you. It is of the Helson Sharkmaster 300. Now, of course, if you're a fan of the channel, you know that the brand Helson is one that I really hold in pretty high regards when it comes to kind of that micro brand sweet spot. And that pretty much all their watches are under $1,000 and a good amount under $1,000. Besides, I think maybe they have like a chronograph or two mechanical that comes in and out of stock. But pretty much their watches are kind of in that $800 and below range, and they really do some spectacular things for that price. Of course, we all know about the Helson Shark Diver, which I love. Also blue. And one of the things I really love about it is that it is kind of a non-homage, from this brand, and they do a few different homage watches, and which pay homage or homage to other existing models. This one is definitely embracing the homageness. All right, but the nice thing is they do add a little bit of a twist to it, because you can you can go date, no date. You can also do big triangle, or you could do 12, and then you can also do black or dark blue. Now, dark blue was never a color option, and this dark blue is absolutely stunning. I love it. It's the perfect blue for this watch. I almost took it out when I first got it, and I was like, man, did they send me the black one by accident? And then I got this thing under light, and I was like, oh wow, no, that is just a deep dark blue, and man, floored. Anyway, so Helson, of course, is a brand out of Hong Kong. If you're a watch fan, you probably have read about them and seen tons of pictures online. They're probably one of the few little micros out of Hong Kong that are quite popular and kind of accepted as a decent watch. They make a decent watch for the money. Okay, this is kind of Helson's step outside of making a decent watch and making just an excellent watch. I mean, this thing has it all, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you, because I think up until now I really haven't seen anybody highlight this model too much, and this is kind of its second iteration. There were some updates where they changed some things with the bracelet and the end links and whatnot, so pretty excited about that. But of course, as you can tell, this is a dive watch. Some key common characteristics when looking for a dive watch: you're really going to be looking for something that is, of course, water resistant, normally through some type of screw down crown. So you're going to want something that's tough, legible, with a dive time bezel and a diver's extension if on bracelet. Now, this piece really definitely hits all those marks. It is, of course, the Sharkmaster 300, known as the 12 dial with no date as far as the options go, and of course in blue. This is really just an homage to one of the original Omega Seamasters. And it's kind of in a configuration where this piece was so popular that they were actually making kind of Franken watches for a while, and they were somewhat affordable, and now they've kind of skyrocketed if you want to kind of get a new old stock Franken version of this particular iteration of the Seamaster. And I think this one is just, it hits all the right notes. As far as the design goes, of course, it's a classic, but the execution is absolutely gorgeous. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this piece in hand. Okay. So as you can see, this thing is quite well finished. Look at those bevels there. Super nicely done. And this is kind of what happens when the team at Helson really applies themselves. Look at that finishing. Absolutely gorgeous. Of course, you compare it to something like here with the Shark Diver, which is an outstanding watch for what it is. True tool piece. I mean, the lines are machining lines, really, not brushing. But then you see kind of what they can do when they put their mind to it. And man, look at the fineness in the finishing. Absolutely gorgeous. And then, of course, this thing's just fully brushed and machined. Really great looking piece. And then even the loom, you can see super thickly applied. This one is also thickly applied, and it's gonna definitely do the job when it comes to loom, but it's not I mean, as you can see here, it even has a little bit more of a whiter tone, and that's because one of the reasons is it's not quite as overdone, I would say, as the Shark Diver is. The Sharkmaster definitely is keeping that in mind with the application, but man, this thing really shines in the darkness as well. But quickly, just to kind of recover some of the stats here, it's 40.5 millimeters in diameter, 13.5 millimeters in height, and then it does have a 47 millimeter lug to lug, which means it's going to wear really quite nicely on you know, most wrists, even larger, smaller. This thing is going to wear just like a dream, like the original model did. Is of course, you know, pretty much all stainless steel. And then you have the beautiful brushing. The proportions are not quite that kind of thirds where you're gonna have a third of the, you know, the thickness is from the case back, third from the bezel, third from the case. Here you're gonna see a little bit more of kind of a half and a half. Basically, the thickness added from the case is about the same as the bezel, and then I'd say the crystal and the case back are pretty close in proportion as well. So one slight difference there. And then also interesting choice. Of course, the nice thing is all of these are fully articulated, which is very nice, as you can see. So it's going to drape really well. The really interesting thing is here they don't use push pins, they don't use screws, they actually use spring bars. So really interesting choice there. I'm not sure why they did that. It was definitely surprising to me when I went to go change the links there, but it worked out fine. Just same way you kind of change straps would be now you just push it in at an angle, then you pull out. It's a spring bar, and then you just reload it. Nice thing is you do have a modern clasp there with a diver's extension, fully milled, and really nicely proportioned because it does have a nice little taper there, as you can see, and really just wears absolutely fantastic. Now the sapphire, as you can see, has a really nice kind of box domed affair to there, and then it has also AR coating. You can see that little glint of that blue right there against my studio lights coming in the corner there. And then this blue, of course, in person, my studio lights are making this blue light up a little bit more, but honestly, this blue is extremely dark and quite lovely out in daylight. So, you know, if you're expecting it to be this bright blue all the time, that's definitely not going to be necessarily the case. It's actually going to be much darker. I mean, you compare it to my black gloves here, as far as the tone goes under the light, you can see that the light really brightens these up. These are black gloves. They aren't navy blue. And then, of course, being a dive watch, it's going to have the screw down crown. It's signed. It has this awesome 120 click bezel. No play. Everything lines up perfectly. Super nice, super smooth. Even with my gloves, of course, still everything is real easy to grasp. Very smooth, very notchy. At the same time, it's kind of in that space in the middle. I'd probably liken it a bit to something like my Oris Aquis as far as the bezel action goes. Being more on the precise notchy side. Now, of course, the dial is all printed. It does have this sapphire insert here with that loomed bezel, and not, if I recall correctly, not everything's loomed. They actually just loom the main markers there, which I believe is actually more accurate to the original, which is, I think, a nice touch. And then, of course, everything is printed on this beautiful matte blue dial. Absolutely gorgeous. Even the font is very similar, which I don't know if Helson will get in trouble for that, but I do applaud them for definitely keeping the aesthetic there. Really, really quite handsome. And there's a reason why people enjoy this, you know, the original, the daddy model, the Seamaster 300 in this range, because it is just so iconic. And the nice thing is here you get an option to kind of have one that, you know, 300 meters of water resistance. It is now, you can have a blue option, super bulletproof, everything, right? So much just from a tool perspective, if you were to take this back to the original release of the Shark the Seamaster, and you would lay this next to it, this would definitely be a far superior piece. But that's, not saying too much, because of course technology's changed quite a bit. But I think it does say something there in the fact that you can definitely buy new and wear this thing and give it its own patina, its own story on your wrist, versus buying somebody else's story on the used market. Of course, it's just using that C3, which is really nice, and I think it does. And of course, in daylight, not going to be quite as white as a BGW9, but the nice thing is it almost gives it a bit of a patina, but more of an ivory patina versus something like a very yellow, deep patina that's going to look, like it's purposely patinaed. This is just going to have, I think the look is going to be a little bit less crisp and white, which I think plays well with the color palette. So I definitely can appreciate that. And of course, it glows super bright. Again, 300 meters of water resistance. Of course, this actually has an ETA 2824 in there. Oh, not that you can see it, but it does have this nicely etched case back. Similar affair to what you've seen from Helson in the past. Really nothing new there when it comes to the etching, but still very nicely done with just a couple of specs on there, and it is nicely numbered, which is a cool touch as well. It does have 20 millimeter lugs, which is a great size, and then drilled lugs, so you can actually switch this out. You want to put it on a NATO, which it's going to look fantastic on, or you want to put it on a rubber dive strap, anything like that. It's definitely going to totally work for you as well. And then, of course, this milled clasp is all the rage these days. Everybody likes to have a good milled clasp with a diver's extension built in. But let's go ahead and get some wrist shots. Okay, as you can see on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, this thing wears just about perfect. Of course, up closer, there'll be some lens distortion that's going to make it look a little bit oversized, but it definitely is not, as you can see there. Wears super nice, so comfortable. I mean, for somebody like me, right? I have tons of watches, just too many. I need to sell some, but I have a lot, right? I shy away from wearing the homage watches as much because I just have so many other pieces that are original that, I don't know, they just tell a little bit more of a story, so I just enjoy wearing those a little bit more. But this is probably the first, real homage watch that I've just enjoyed wearing as much as I do. I mean, I get real excitement and enjoyment from wearing this piece. This thing just rocks. Look at the way it sits on the wrist. True tool watch. Everything drapes perfectly. As you can see, just everything's super nice. This thing just wears magnificently. And then the nice thing is you do have a nice taper to it, so this clasp, although it's, large and in charge, it's not oversized feeling or anything like that. It just feels right on this timepiece. So really happy with that. And as you can see, the proportions, the drape, the way the light plays on this thing. And I think you probably do get a little better idea of it here on my wrist. This is probably a little bit truer to the color representation you're going to get versus when you're up here with the brighter lights. And you're seeing some more of the blue being lit up. Probably down here where it looks almost black, more of a midnight blue, if anything. So really just love this piece. Super versatile as well. Let's go ahead and get some low light transition and loom shots. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights, and wham bam. As you can see, really just quite gorgeous, super bright, what you would expect from Helson. They're really known for their loom application, super strong. I mean, this thing, you put it next to really anything out there. You put it next to a tuna from Seiko, you put it next to an Oris Aquis. This thing is going to definitely stand up in the loom department. And of course, the execution there is really nice. I know that sometimes when you do have those sapphire bezel inserts, especially when they're loomed, a lot of times it's really easy to expose some of those imperfections. And in this case, as you can see, really none to report. The rendition is absolutely just perfect. You can see that second hand ticking away just past the 6 o'clock. But let's go ahead and get some low light transition to just give you guys a little bit of an idea of how this piece is going to look when not in direct sunlight. As you can see, it's more of a black tone now, right? And you can see a little bit of the blue brought out in the hue there. And you can look at these finishings, the way the light just dances right off of those high polished bevels, big chunky bevel, but sharp. Beautifully done. Look at the way the light plays off. Look at that bevel. The way it dances. That is a curvy, sexy case there. Really beautifully done. And then the low light transition, you see that loom again. Still pumping, right? Just looking good. Then you get a little bit of light on it, man. Whew. This is a good looking watch. And of course it should be, right? It is a design that is stood up the test of time. I don't know why Omega has moved away from this design when it comes to their current Seamaster 300. I would love to see them do kind of a return to form. They've reissued the original iterations of the Seamaster through kind of special editions and modern reinterpretations. I would love to see this kind of be next on the plate, because this thing is just gorgeous. I love this look, this aesthetic. And of course, the nice thing is I still get a Swiss movement that's going to tick very smoothly at 8 ticks per second. Using that ETA 2824, it's going to be very reliable. And this thing has, I don't know, I've just been very lucky with my Helsons. They do not actually advertise that they do any type of regulations, but man, something about these watches, I've just been super lucky, I guess. They've been keeping amazing time. This one's been like maybe +1 a day. My shark diver's been maybe between 2 and 3. So this thing, yeah, really well done. And pretty much every aspect. Of course, it's not regulated as far as I know, so we can't really guarantee that. But for those of you that are wondering, right, it's definitely nice. And in this price range, there's definitely watches that have come out with Miyotas. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying, for those of you that want to play the value and the cost in the movement game, you really can't complain. It has a 28-24, and it runs really well. Now on wrists, as far as closing thoughts go, classic proportions, it has that tool aesthetic, but it does add some refinement and of course some upgrades, because it's a modern timepiece. So this thing is built like an absolute tank now. As far as model variants go, kind of like I mentioned before, you can do the 12 dial as seen here, or you can do the big triangle dial. They're also available with a date or without a date, and the date is at 3 o'clock in the traditional position. And it does have a nice little frame. It's not framed like with a piece of metal, but it's framed with a nice little outline as well. So I think it's quite handsome. I almost ordered the date model, but I decided to go with the no date because I feel like you end up, the no dates always just seem to be a bit more collectible. Not that I'm buying this with the intention of selling it, but I don't know, I guess that's where I kind of, there were so many options to have, that's how I chose. Comparable models, there are quite a few similar homages out there. Of course, that very many micros have come out with, as well as new old stock kind of Franken watches people have put together. Of course, those are way more expensive now, too expensive for what they are, and then the original ones, of course, are way out of many people's price range, and outside of, even if they had the money for them to find, they're just not as available. So with that said, there's not too much that's out there that's comparable to this. I mean, to me, really, this is my pick, out of the Seamaster 300 homage bunch. I mean, what else out there has been executed to this level? I really can't think of anything. The way the bracelet's done, it has the solid end links, where it has the female style end link. It doesn't have the T-shape that sticks out. and protrudes from the case and breaks up any of those lines. This thing just hits all the right notes. Gorgeous on the wrist, gorgeous just to look at here, static. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, also please do hit like. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.